Many tutors start natural eating full of expectations, but are faced with symptoms that are frightening. Gas, diarrhea, restlessness, itching. After all, how to differentiate the simple adaptation of the body from a true food intolerance? Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss the next natural nutrition tips for dogs. From the first days of life, dogs and cats have an extremely sensitive digestive system shaped by the biology of each species. When an owner decides to abandon industrialized food and migrate to a more natural diet such as BARF, the first signs that the animal's body shows work as a powerful alert. Excessive gas, frequent diarrhea, and unusual agitation can indicate that something is not being processed well. These symptoms are often frightening, and some tutors give up on the transition, believing that natural food is not suitable for their pet. The reality, however, is much more complex and requires knowledge to differentiate what is a natural adaptation response from what is actually a food intolerance. The body of dogs and cats, when receiving raw food for the first time after years of food consumption, needs time to readjust the production of digestive enzymes. Raw proteins, fleshy bones, and even vegetables in small amounts activate digestive processes that were previously inactive or underutilized. This is why gas can arise in the first few weeks. The body is relearning to work with fresh, nutrient-rich ingredients and naturally reacts with fermentation and gas elimination. When this condition is mild and lasts only a few days, there is no reason to worry. But when gas becomes intense, accompanied by abdominal pain, diarrhea with a very strong odor, or even blood in the stool, we are facing a sign of intolerance or error in food management. Diarrhea, for example, should not be seen only as something negative. Often, the animal's intestine is rapidly expelling what it does not recognize as adequate. It can be excess fat, pieces of bone that are too big, meat with too much skin, or even a protein that the body cannot break down. Dogs and cats can also have specific intolerances, just like humans. Beef, chicken, eggs, and even fish have already been recorded as potential triggers of reactions. The attentive tutor should observe if the symptom is repeated whenever the same ingredient is offered. If after 3 attempts at consumption, the reaction continues, it is necessary to remove this food from the diet and replace it with another protein of different origin. Another critical point is the agitation. Many owners report that after the introduction of BARF, their pets become restless, sleep less, or scratch more often. Part of this agitation may come from the extra energy that the natural diet provides, since the animals start to receive nutrients of very high bioavailability. However, if the agitation is accompanied by vomiting, excessive scratching, or constant licking of the paws, we are facing typical signs of adverse reaction to food. The body, in this case, interprets certain components as aggressors and responds with symptoms of allergy or intolerance. This is where the importance of a transition process done with caution comes in. You should never replace the entire feed with BARF overnight. The ideal is to start with small amounts, mixed with the usual food in gradual proportions, to allow the animal's stomach and intestines to adapt. Starting with lighter meats, such as skinless chicken or turkey, usually brings better acceptance. Fleshy bones should be introduced only after a few days, in small portions, and always raw, never cooked, as cooked bones fragment into splinters and can cause serious internal injuries. In addition, it is essential to respect the size of the animal. Small pieces of meat for small dogs and larger cuts for large dogs prevent choking and help in the chewing process. Cats, in turn, respond better to meat in thin strips, which simulate the hunting of small prey. The lack of adaptation in cutting food is one of the main causes of vomiting and diarrhea right at the beginning of the transition. A very common mistake that leads to intense gas and diarrhea is the rush to include too much variety from the beginning. Many tutors, eager to offer a complete meal, end up mixing beef, chicken, fish, and eggs in the first week. The result is that the animal's body, still unprepared to deal with so many proteins at once, collapses digestively. The correct thing is to work with a base protein for at least 2 weeks, observing the body's reaction, before adding another source of protein. Another risk factor is the inappropriate use of vegetables. Although they are part of the BARF diet, they should be offered in small quantities, always crushed or steamed, to facilitate digestion. Raw and excess vegetables generate intense fermentation, increasing gas and discomfort. Raw potatoes, for example, are highly toxic to dogs and cats and should be avoided entirely. Carrots, pumpkin, and zucchini, in small portions, can help with the consistency of stools, balancing cases of mild diarrhea. In this first moment of adaptation, it is essential to observe the animal's feces daily. Firm stools, normal in color and without exaggerated odor, indicate that the body is assimilating the diet well. Very liquid, green, mucus-filled or bloody stools, on the other hand, require immediate attention. It is in this simple analysis, made by the tutor at home, that the key to differentiating whether the problem is just one of adaptation or if we are facing a picture of real food intolerance. When the symptoms last for more than a week, when there is marked weight loss, apathy, constant vomiting or bloody diarrhea, the owner should not insist on home adjustments. In these cases, a visit to the veterinarian is mandatory. A professional may request stool tests, blood tests, and even food intolerance tests, accurately identifying foods that should no longer be part of the diet. By understanding this process, the tutor avoids giving up on natural food in the face of the first difficulties. He understands that gas, diarrhea, and agitation are not just symptoms of something wrong, but signs of communication from the body, which needs to be heard and respected. Patience, careful observation, and careful introduction of food transform this adaptation period into a learning stage, not only for the pet, but also for the tutor, who gets to know in detail how his companion's body works. When an owner notices that their dog or cat has severe gas, persistent diarrhea, or unusual agitation after the introduction of BARF, the next step should not be to immediately abandon the diet, but rather to accurately identify the food triggers. This is the time to become a true investigator of the pet's plate, evaluating each item offered, the way it was prepared and the impact it had on the body. The first point is the amount of food offered. Many tutors, excited by the idea of natural nutrition, end up serving generous portions right from the start. However, dogs and cats that have always received industrialized food have their stomachs accustomed to a highly processed pattern of slow and predictable digestion. When they suddenly receive raw meat, bones, and offal, the excessive volume exceeds the digestive capacity. This generates gas, loose stools, and cramps. The solution is simple: immediately reduce the portion until the body stabilizes, gradually increasing as the signs improve. Another determining factor is the quality of the meat. It is not enough to be raw meat. It needs to be fresh, free of excess fat, without seasonings, without salt, and without any form of processing. Many symptoms of intolerance arise because the tutor, without realizing it, offers cuts with heavy ribs, excess cartilage, or even leftovers intended for human consumption already seasoned. These details make all the difference. Meat with a lot of tallow or chicken skin, for example, overloads the liver and can cause episodes of immediate diarrhea. The second stage of this investigation is the controlled introduction of proteins. The most common mistake is to vary too soon. To identify the real culprit, you should work with only one protein source for at least 2 weeks. If the tutor starts with chicken, he should keep chicken, without mixing it with fish or beef, until the body shows clear signs of adaptation. Only when the stool is firm and the pet has stable energy can a new protein be introduced. If the symptoms return with the new protein, the association is immediate and precise. That food is not being tolerated. In addition, the introduction sequence is strategic. Mild meats, such as skinless chicken, turkey, and rabbit, generally have a higher acceptance rate. Heavier meats, such as beef or pork, should be tested later when the body is already adapted. This care avoids early digestive overload and increases the chances of diet success. The observation of the viscera is also worth mentioning. Although they are rich in essential nutrients such as iron and B vitamins, the innards should only represent a small fraction of the diet, never exceeding 10% of the total meal. Excess liver, for example, can cause soft stools and a yellowish or even orange color. Excess kidney can cause strong odor and gas. Balance here is key. Another point that goes unnoticed by many tutors is the temperature of the food. Meats and offal should be offered at room temperature or slightly cooled, never directly frozen or hot after improper thawing. Food that is too cold can cause stomach spasms, leading to vomiting and immediate diarrhea. Correct defrosting, preferably in the refrigerator, never at room temperature for long periods, ensures microbiological safety and proper digestion. When the problem is not meat, but vegetables, the signs are clear. Excessive gas, bulky stools, and a strong odor. This is because dogs and cats do not have enough enzymes to break down raw plant fibers. Therefore, vegetables should always be crushed or lightly cooked, simulating the digestion process that would occur in the stomach of a herbivorous prey. Carrots, squash, zucchini, and spinach are all good options to start. On the other hand, vegetables such as broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage tend to increase gas production and should be introduced with caution and in minimal amounts. Another fundamental detail is the use of fleshy bones. The tutor who offers bones in an exaggerated way can cause constipation or, paradoxically, diarrhea associated with undigested fragments. Suitable bones are always raw, proportional to the size of the animal, and presented under supervision. Chicken necks and wings for small dogs, turkey carcass for large dogs, and smaller tender cuts for cats work as allies in dental and intestinal strengthening. The mistake lies in offering unsuitable bones, such as bones that are too large, cooked bones, or cuts with sharp barbs. In the investigation of the causes, the owner should keep a food diary. This simple daily record of everything the animal has eaten and the symptoms it has shown helps to identify hidden patterns. If after introducing liver, the animal presented diarrhea on the same day, the annotation allows you to recognize the direct relationship. If, on the contrary, diarrhea appears days after eating a certain protein, the diary helps to trace the history. This simple but extremely effective method is used even by veterinarians specializing in nutrition. In addition, it is essential to understand that some symptoms are part of physiological adaptation and should not be confused with intolerance. Light gas, slightly softer stools, or even occasional episodes of agitation can occur while the body adjusts the intestinal flora. Bacterial balance is dynamic and needs time to adapt to a raw and fresh diet. The difference is in the intensity and persistence of the symptoms. If they disappear in a few days, it is an adaptation. If they remain or worsen, we are faced with food intolerance or error. Finally, the tutor needs to remember that each pet is unique. What works for one dog doesn't work for another, even within the same breed. Some animals tolerate beef perfectly, while others experience diarrhea whenever they ingest it. Some cats adapt quickly to the fish, while others vomit after the first attempt. This individuality requires patience, method, and accompaniment. The secret is not to give up in the face of the first difficulties, but to learn to interpret the signals that the animal's body transmits. In this way, gas, diarrhea, and agitation are no longer just a cause for concern to become home diagnostic tools, helping the tutor to build a tailored, balanced, and healthy diet. The key is to transform each reaction into learning, adjusting the quantities, proteins, and the way of preparation until you find the perfect combination for the animal's specific organism. When the symptoms of gas, diarrhea, and agitation exceed the threshold of initial adaptation, it is at this point that the owner must think of definitive solutions to ensure that BARF is beneficial, safe, and sustainable in the long term. The secret is not to abandon natural food, but to make smart adjustments that respect the unique needs of each organism. The first step is to reset the basis of the diet. Many problems arise because the tutor starts with a complex mixture right at the beginning. The solution is to go back to basics. Choose only a light, easily digestible protein, such as skinless chicken, and offer simple cuts in small quantities. This exclusion diet works as a digestive reset. For 7 to 10 days, the pet receives only this basic food. If the symptoms subside, it is clear that the problem was in the variety or in some specific ingredient. If symptoms persist, it means that the protein chosen may not be suitable for that animal. In this case, it is replaced by another, such as turkey or whitefish, and the process is repeated. At the same time, it is essential to pay attention to hydration. Frequent diarrhea can lead to dehydration within hours, especially in puppies or elderly animals. Fresh water should always be available, but you can also offer homemade bone broth, without seasonings, salt, or onions, as a way to replace liquids and minerals. The broth is easily accepted and aids in intestinal recovery, in addition to strengthening the immune system. Another crucial point is the gradual inclusion of natural probiotics. The gut flora is responsible for much of digestion and immunity. When the bacterial balance is disrupted, gas, unstable stools, and discomfort arise. Foods such as goat's milk, kefir, lactose-free natural yogurt, or specific veterinary probiotics help restore the gut microbiota. This booster accelerates the body's adaptation to BARF and decreases sensitivity to new ingredients. The management of vegetables should also be reviewed. If, after the introduction of carrots and pumpkin, the animal has firmer feces and reduced gas, these foods prove to be valuable allies. However, if vegetables such as broccoli and cauliflower trigger strong gas, they should be eliminated or offered only in minimal quantities. More important than following a standard recipe is to observe how your pet's body reacts to each food. In some cases, it is necessary to completely remove certain food groups. There are dogs and cats that do not tolerate chicken, regardless of the way it is prepared. Others don't handle beef or eggs well. This does not mean that they cannot have a balanced natural diet, but that they need to receive alternatives such as lamb, duck, or fish. This adjustment may seem limiting, but in practice it guarantees quality of life and avoids digestive crises. Another important feature is the strict control of the portions of fleshy bones. While they are critical to bone and dental health, too much can lead to constipation, followed by explosive diarrhea as the body tries to expel excess calcium. The recommended proportion is around 10 to 15% of the total diet, always respecting the size of the animal. The tutor who maintains this balance observes firm, light-colored stools without excessive odor. The agitation, in turn, deserves a different analysis. When the animal is more active, plays more, runs around the house and shows extra energy, this can be a positive reflection of the new diet. Natural food provides high-quality proteins and fats, increasing mood. However, if the agitation is accompanied by constant licking of the paws, intense itching or red spots on the skin, we are facing an allergic condition. In these situations, the systematic removal of suspect ingredients is essential, always noting the results in the food diary. This is where the indispensable role of veterinary monitoring specialized in animal nutrition comes in. Often, the owner can identify patterns, but only the veterinarian can confirm with tests and guide precise adjustments. Food intolerance tests, blood tests, and stool evaluations reveal nutritional deficiencies, intestinal inflammations, or specific intolerances that are not visible to the naked eye. Investing in a consultation at this time avoids major mistakes and ensures that the transition to BARF is done safely and sustainably. Another essential aspect is the emotional resilience of the tutor. The frustration of seeing the pet suffer from diarrhea or gas can lead to early withdrawal. But, By understanding that each symptom is a message from the body and that specific adjustments can solve the problem, the tutor transforms anguish into learning. The process requires patience, but each step overcome strengthens the animal's health and increases the bond of trust between tutor and pet. Over time, the benefits become visible. Smaller, mild-smelling stools, shinier coats, stable energy, and even improved behavior. In the long run, dogs and cats fed BARF correctly have fewer dental problems, strengthened immunity, and superior longevity. The initial phase of gas, diarrhea, and agitation, which seemed like an insurmountable obstacle, turns into a chapter of overcoming, marked by attentive care and the genuine desire to offer the best to the four-legged companion. Therefore, the final message is clear. Do not see the symptoms as a failure, but as an invitation to observation and adjustment. Each animal is unique, and each organism responds differently. The tutor who learns to interpret these signs not only ensures a healthy diet, but builds a deeper and more conscious relationship with his pet. The reward is the certainty of providing quality of life, vitality, and extra years of living together full of health. If you've tried BARF and struggled, this guide will show you how to turn your pet's body signals into learning by adjusting your diet until you find the perfect balance. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss the next natural nutrition tips for dogs and cats. Leave your like to support the content and share it with other tutors who are also transitioning to BARF.